Alright, so here I have 21f6, subtract by 15f5, which is all over negative 3f4. Then this equation is subtracted by this equation, which is 2f minus 5 in brackets 2. So let's work with just this guy first. Okay? So I have 21f6 minus 15f5 for my numerator. Oh, back up here at 5. Now, it's a binomial, and I'm going to divide it by this monomial. I'm going to break it up into individual monomials. So I'm going to divide by my denominator, which is negative 3f4. And don't forget that negative there, okay? So I'm going to have another negative 3f4. And now let's work with the numerical coefficients first. 21 divided by negative 3. So positive and a negative is going to give me a negative. 21 divided by 3 is 7. I have an f6 here and an f4, and we subtract both exponents by a negative by 4, because when you divide the variables, you have to subtract by the smaller exponents. The smaller exponent between 6 and 4 is 4, so that's why I subtracted by 4. So I'm going to have no f in the bottom, because they're going to 4 minus 4 is 0, so there's no more f here. F with 6 minus 4, 6 subtract by 4 is f2. Okay? Now here's the tricky part here. Notice that there's a minus sign here. So this minus sign is tied into this numerator here. So this is negative 15 divided by negative 3. So a negative and a negative becomes a positive. If you didn't catch that, you're going to leave it as a negative. So make sure you look at what does this number tie into. Where does this subtraction come into? It comes into the 15. So that's why it's negative 15 divided by negative 3, which gave me a positive 5. Then again, f to the 5, f to the 4, I'm going to subtract by 4. And I'm just going to be left with f to the 1 or just f. Okay, so now that is this here is the equation I derived from this question here. So now I'm just going to look at this guy right here. Notice again, I'm ignoring this negative and I'm just working with this one. I will work with this negative afterwards. So I'm going to have 2f minus 5. And it's the power of 2, so I'm going to take my base, which is 2f minus 5, and I'm going to times it by itself 2 times. Okay, so 2f and 2f, that's going to give me 4f squared. Now 2f minus negative 5, positive and a negative gives me a negative 10f. Then the bottom, negative 5 times by 2f, again that's another negative 10f. And then lastly, negative 5 and a negative 5. Negative and negative will give me a positive 25. Now clean this up here by collecting your like terms. So I have a 4f squared minus 10, negative 10, negative 10, negative 20f, add by 25. Now I have this answer that I derived from this guy up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put both of these, I'm going to write these side by side. So I have here, I'm going to just open up brackets here, negative 7f squared, add by 5f. Then there's a negative that separates the equation, so I'm going to put a negative there. Open the bracket again, write this one down. 4f squared minus 20f, add by 25. Now I'm going to look outside my brackets and I'm going to see if there's any negatives there. There's no negatives here, so I could just drop these brackets. But there's negatives right here. So I have to make sure I distribute the negatives to all the terms to the right of that bracket. So again, here I could just drop my brackets because there's no negative here. There's no distribution that I have to worry about. So I'm going to go negative 7f squared, add by 5f. Here I have a negative to worry about, so I'm going to distribute that negative into every term. So negative and a positive, I have negative 4f squared. Negative and a negative, that's going to give me a positive 20f. And then a negative and a positive, negative 25. Now my last step is just to collect like terms. So I have a negative 7f squared there, and there's another f squared, which is a negative 4f squared. So I'm going to have negative 7 and negative 4 becomes negative 11 f squared. Let's look at the f. 5f and a 5f, 5 plus 20, 25f. And lastly, what do we have here in the end? For the number, just negative 25. And that's my answer.